Hello guys, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you a nice item in my collection, and it's a AIRFIX Playset. It's in the H000 scale, and it's basically a toy set, soldiers set, and this is the Beachead version. These were produced in the very early 1960s up until the early 1970s, and this particular playset came out in 1967 originally. The one that I've got is catalog number 1736, so that kind of dates it to the very early 1970s, probably about 1972. So this particular playset is over 50 years old. And as you can see, it's a nice cardboard box. On the side it has the what's inside the box, which is a gun emplacement, and a set of German infantry, and a set of British paratroopers. And as it says there, contents: a snap-together model and over 80 figures. The box itself is 11 inches square, and it has the box art on it by the artist Brian Knight, who did a lot of the, at the time, paintings for the HO scale soldiers. So if you bought a set of soldiers back in the 1970s, for example, or the 1960s, he was the artist that painted the covers for the boxes. There were quite a range of these play sets made at the time. For example, you had a French Foreign Legion fort, for example. You had a Western fort for Native American Indians and cowboys. You had a Roman fort and various other things. And as I say, this is the so-called playset series. The series was expanded in the early 1970s into what they call the assault series. But as I say, we'll have a look at this particular one here. I do like the cover on it, and would be a nice cover to frame, I would imagine, if you're into vintage military toys and that kind of thing. It has a nice drawing of British paratroopers basically landing on top of a German gun emplacement. So this is kind of a D-Day scenario that we're talking about here. So you got the big figure in the foreground here carrying a Thompson's submachine gun. Got a couple more coming down on their parachutes with their Sten guns. And you see the soldiers in the back that they've landed. And you got a four of them attacking the fort from that side, or the gun emplacement, and you got German soldiers here running around the place defending the place. So you got the soldier in the middle here looking straight up at us. As I say, that figure's coming down with a Thompson submachine gun, but he's just about to be shot by that figure there, so I don't think he's going to make it down alive. Anyhow, it's quite a nice little scene, and kind of would have made the imagination of a child run riot, I would imagine. So what we're going to do next is I'll open the box and we'll have a look at the contents inside. So that's the insert. There's a plastic insert, and as I say, it's over 50 years old, so the plastic's getting a little bit brittle. As you can see here, it's cracked in a few places, but that's what's inside the actual box here. So you got the lid here, and going back, it says Playset Series Beachead. You'll note the Beachead is in the old writing. It's 2 H's nowadays. And as it says, there's a snap-together model with figures. So what we've got here are the instructions to complete the gun emplacement. So you got the original sheet here, which is quite nice. And then you got the 3 compartments. The top one contains the actual emplacement. And then you got 2 little boxes here of the actual soldiers. The soldiers would have originally been on their sprues, so that is that. So that is what you would have had originally in here when you bought the set new. So you would have had the soldiers in sprues. So I've got a original set here. So you can see the actual boxes are too big to fit into the box here. And that was changed with the Assault series, which had a slightly wider or more rectangular box, and you had 2 boxes of soldiers in the boxes. But anyhow, this is the 1967 version, and we've got the British paratroopers in green, kind of an olive green here, and you've got the German infantry soldiers here in blue. The German soldiers were introduced in 1960, and they're quite basic looking. They're quite basic style of modeling, very indistinct weapons and equipment. I do quite like it that way, though. I mean, it's quite naive in construction. The paratroopers were introduced in 1965, so they had a few more years of getting it more perfect, so they're in slightly better detail, I would imagine. And you got the plastic fort here. So what we're going to do now is I'll take out the fort and we'll have a closer look at that. So what I've got here are the actual components for the actual gun emplacement itself. We've got a spring-loaded cannon there, artillery cannon, and it was able to fire little shells. It would have come originally with 6 plastic shells. There's one left in the kit here. So these just basically drop in front of the barrel, and as I say, it's spring-loaded, so it fires. So as I say, it's set up as a toy for children here. And then you got a bunker here, a control bunker, you got a radio shack. The actual artillery piece fits into there. And because it's a coastal artillery, you've got a searchlight there for nighttime observations. As I say, I've got one shell left, and believe it or not, I've got the actual aerial. The aerial always breaks off. It would fit up in there. So I could probably glue it together again with super glue, but I'm not going to do that just now. It just fits into there originally. So it's quite nice having that. So that's the actual fort. So if you're a 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old kid, I'm sure this would have been something neat to play with. So what I'll do now is I'll take out the actual soldiers and we'll have a closer look at them. So what we'll do is we'll look at the British Paratroop set first of all. So as I say, these are HO or OO scale figures. They were originally designed by AIRFIX to be used for their HO scale railroad models. Anyhow, this is the 1965 issue of the Paratroops, and they were not renewed. They continued into the 1970s in that particular format here. So there's about 33 figures or thereabouts. So you get 2 parachutes, British paratroops who just landed, so they're pulling in their parachutes there. You got these 3 figures on the back, which are a little bit unusual. They're shooting their submachine guns into the sky for some reason, like they're shooting down their own comrades. I'm not quite sure exactly why that set or that pose was included. It's a bit strange. We got a mortar crew with 2 men. The only thing that's missing from the set are the legs for the mortar. That has gone missing, unfortunately, but I've got the mortar itself, and as I say, the platform with the 2 soldiers on it. Next, we've got a soldier retrieving something out of a canister. These canisters were dropped by a parachute. We've got the radio operator in the back. There's another figure there. When I was a kid, I had this set here back in the 1970s. I always thought it was a wounded soldier going back, but apparently it's supposed to be an officer looking at his watch. So that may be. Anyhow, he's sitting next to the radio operator now. Got 2 grenade throwers. 2 guys, I would imagine, knocking somebody to the ground or whatever with their rifles or machine guns. We got 4 running pairs. We got 3 shooting their submachine guns, kneeling. We've got 2 crawling with their rifles. We've got 2, I suppose you could call them wounded or dead pairs there. We've got another 4 lying prone with their submachine guns, and we've got a bazooka crew. Got the guy with the bazooka and a guy loading it. As I say, this set came out in 1965, and the weapons are a little bit strange. As I say, on the lid of the box, you've got one paratrooper with a Thompson submachine gun and two with Sten guns, but these are slightly not easily identified. They look like Rising submachine guns, American-made machine guns used by the U.S. Marine Corps. The only identifiable weapons would probably be these two Lee Enfield rifles, the number 4 rifles that the two guys crawling around have. So anyhow, that's the British paratroop range. Right, I've set up the German infantry set here, and there are slightly more than the British para set, and there's about 47 figures here. As I say, this particular set came out in 1960. It's quite a limited detail on the soldiers, and I like it. It's quite a naive set. This particular set, as I say, came out in 1960, but it was superseded in 1972-73 by a new set of moldings, which are a lot more realistic. But as I say, these are quite nostalgic for me. These were actually the very first set of AIRFIX soldiers I ever bought, or my parents bought for me, I should say, when I was about 7 or so. And this is the German infantry set that are in the box to defend the gun emplacement against the paras. So first of all, we got two, if it focuses, we got two flamethrower soldiers there, and we've got the large container in the back here, which is the I suppose the model 1935 flamethrower. We got an anti-tank gun and crew there, and a guy with a with some binoculars there. I suppose the gun is supposed to be a 2.8 centimeter Panzerbüchse model 41. We got 4 crawling soldiers. We got 2 dead or wounded soldiers there. So you got your usual grenade throwers. You got these Panzerfaust, not Panzerfaust, Panzerschreck bazookas, and these figures on the back here, which are supposed to apparently be the reloaders for the weapons, but as you can see, both the shells for the cannon and the shells for the bazooka are way too large in relationship, so I'm not quite sure exactly what they're supposed to be. You got a commander figure there with his left arm up. You got 4 marching soldiers. You got a stretcher carrier in the back there. And then you got 4 kneeling riflemen, 4 standing riflemen, 4 kneeling submachine gun troops there, I suppose maybe NCOs. Got 4 running soldiers and 4 advancing soldiers there. So that kind of makes up the German side of the set. And here we go. That's the playset setup, as I suppose a typical young kid would have set it up back in the early 1970s. So you got the attacking British paratroopers attacking the back of the emplacement, and you got the German infantry there defending the gun emplacement. There are 2 flanking attacks going on right there. A couple of paratroopers have reached the fort or have been cut down. I really don't know what the soldiers shooting into the sky are really there for. I'm not quite sure exactly what they're doing. Maybe they're shooting down or trying to shoot down a German plane or something. I'm not quite sure, but it seems an awkward, strange pose. But you got the commander there with the radio operator. You got the 2 troops there who have just landed. There's the mortar team just giving support. And you've got the advance here, grenade throwers and machine gunners advancing. And you've got the soldiers here defending it. So makes quite a nice little set. So that's the gun emplacement there. Quite a nostalgic set. It's also illustrated in that book there. You can see the gun emplacement there in that photograph here. If you are getting a little bit older or you are an adult, you could always start doing wargaming, and AIRFIX produced a little booklet. The magazine guide number 15 came out in, I think, 1976, and it gives the rules for actual wargaming. So instead of just playing like a child, you could actually end up doing rules. It's got a nice little book here. It's full of different rules, some good photographs here of the AIRFIX range of models. And so anyhow, I'll leave it at that. That's my nostalgic 1972 or 1973 gun emplacement playset by AIRFIX. So just a last look at the actual box here, and as I say, it comes in a plastic insert, which after 50 years is beginning to become very brittle, so it's beginning to break. But it's still nice to have the actual unit in its entirety, including the instructions, one lone shell, and the radio aerial. Right, one last look. So if, like me, you grew up in the 1970s or even earlier in the 1960s, you would probably think this is pure nostalgia, and it is. And these are beginning to command a premium on the collector's market, and I do really like that cover of the box. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining me, and as always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.